will go to the next area of discussion in this podcast, which is one that put headlines. It happens with their big billion-dollar, multi-billion-dollar TV deal. Something we've been waiting on, important business within the UFC for a while. But I believe that, do you remember the terms off the top of your head? It's like 1.1 billion per year for 7 years, right?
7.7 billion.
That's the kind of stuff you just run outside and just scream you made that kind of money. This is holy shit. Let's get into all the implications of said deal and then the ripples and reactions from the people. You know more people affected by this than I do, so I'll let you go first.
The first thing, I just want to set the stage and just remind people, WME bought the UFC from the Zufas for $3 billion. And their ESPN contract, which is now going to be up in 4 months, was $3.5 billion. They made their money back. This is all, it's not all profit, but it's all profit to me, right? Obviously, there's business expenses, there's costs to go paying the fighters. But this 7.7 billion, there's no debt anymore. Nothing for them to pay off. Like, this is even, that number's huge and it sounds good, you're thinking, because they don't have this huge debt that they're trying to dig themselves out of they began with. They're now this is just profit. Again, I know not profit, but it's just surplus. It's just money for them. And I've been seeing a bunch of the different news outlets like trying to find something negative to say about this, trying to act like it's bad, right? Oh, what about pay-per-view points for fighters? Let me tell you something about that. There's like 10 dudes that get pay-per-view points. It's all the champs and like Conor McGregor and superstars. The guys that are getting pay-per-view points are doing okay. They're not worried. This is the only, you want to complain about fighter pay? This is the only thing that's going to raise fighter pay. And it's not, maybe it doesn't raise the percentage, right? Maybe it doesn't go up from 17%. Maybe it even goes down. But all that matters is that more dollars are going in fighters' pockets. And this is the only thing that can lead to that. The UFC, WME, TKO, whoever, getting more money is the only way to make it happen. And I'm sorry if that makes you mad. Dana's already given some sprinkles, right? He's already given some bonuses are going up. They haven't said anything else about contracts, but the UFC's winning, dude. The UFC, we went through a little phase where everyone was like kind of talking shit about them. They don't know what they're doing. They don't have any superstars. They got $7 billion. They got $8 billion. I don't know.
Yeah. They know what they're doing on that spectrum. Let's focus on the money. They had to make a loan. You don't just buy I think it was 4 or whatever you said, multiple billions of dollars. You don't just have it in cash. And it was an interest-bearing loan. So the UFC, as you guys know, as the interest rates are going up, it was an adjustable loan. The shit was getting more expensive for them, though they were still profitable. But this is massive, huge. And I want to go bigger picture, because for my generation, from the old timers before me that tell me how it was, and from what I read, just studying boxing and boxing history and how Muhammad Ali was the most viewed combat sport athlete of all time and how he pulled the most views and all those things and how that worked. Well, there was the magic of TV. And yes, the streaming era is upon us and not everybody watches TV anymore. But having the sport on free wave CBS to reach the whole world in mass is going to be a positive. I don't care what anybody has to say. There's plenty of regions in the world that are not fully developed, that don't have internet, but they got TV. They got CBS. CBS is still broadcasting. And this is a way for the UFC to reach even more people and reach that true world audience wherever you may be on the planet. You don't even have to have money. And that is a very respectful statement. First off, I'm not dogging anybody. And that to me is huge. Like, I think that's maybe the biggest beneficial thing of this whole thing from a fan's point of view.
Absolutely. It's all win for the fans. Listen, I'm a degenerate, so I bought the card last weekend, right? I'm mad about it. I want my 80. We had the 2 good fights in the middle. We had 2 spinning elbow KOs. It was not worth $80, okay? period. And if you're telling me like you just have my Paramount Plus subscription and watch every fight, that it can't get better than that. And that's also better for the fighters. I bought the card because I'm going to do that, right? Other random people are not going to buy an $80 UFC card and maybe see Lerone Murphy's spinning elbow KO and say, oh, I'm a fan of his now. But they'll be clicking on Paramount and go, oh, what is this thing? And tune in. And that is a win for everybody.
And I think that will get the image of the fighters and in their locations more. Like, just pick anywhere. Like, I'm going to go South Africa with DDP. Like, if you're a South African fighter that's not DDP, I'm sure there's businesses and things in South Africa that would like to have you in an endorsement. But if you're not on TV, if your face is not out there for everyone to see freely and more easily, then how are you supposed to get those endorsements, right? Only the fighters that get to the highest level starts getting those kind of endorsements. So I think that's good for everybody. I mean, even in the States, like every state has their local businesses. If you're on TV more and you're being shown more, then yeah, you can do an air conditioned company in Arizona or a rock climbing gym in Colorado, random stuff that fits athletics, the image of the athlete and sport. And I think there's a place where it can grow, where hopefully the athletes can start making more money, not just the UFC.
So you're 100% right. It's all net positive. I can't think of a negative other than, right, the only thing that's been brought up that I'm like, okay, is that there's no incentive now for the UFC to stack cards. Like, there's no UFC 300 anymore. There's no double fight, triple fight. They get that 1.1 million regardless, and they just need to put a show on 46 times a year. So the pay-per-views are going to be less stacked, but hopefully that means the fight nights do better. And I do not think that Dana is the type of guy that is down to put on garbage cards. Just period. I don't know him as good as others, but I've talked to him a few times. I know him better than most people listening to this card. Like, he's not the type of guy that's just going to put on crappy cards because he doesn't have to sell. And that's just my opinion on that.
And I agree with you, because there is a relationship with the broadcaster that they still want views. They still want to pull audiences, because that broadcaster is going to sell those advertising slots to key demographics that they pull. And if you're not doing the job to do that, then there's domino effect, and nobody wants that. Nobody likes those kind of situations. So yeah, I agree with you on there. Here's where I got two, like, what if this or what if that. Okay. So yes, right now, the current formula, like, oh, no pay-per-views. Well, maybe call me cynical, maybe because I don't know Dana like you, and all he's done is lie to me, but the dude's lied cold-blooded right to our face tons of times. And that's fine. If you're going to be a promoter, you better learn how to lie. But with that being said, I'm not 100%, maybe I'm brainwashed, but I just can't believe the pay-per-view is dead. Like, it just won't exist ever again. Like, it's the way of the dinosaur. It's done. I just have such a hard time believing that. Now, I understand the setup and I understand the deal, and I'm not saying, oh, they're going to sneak one on you. I just feel like they could find somebody else that could do something else. What?
If they get a superstar, if they get someone that they think that they can't sell pay-per-views right now, and he said if someone comes up and he thinks he can sell you a pay-per-view, they'll do a pay-per-view.
He put in the asterisks. All right, fine enough. Yeah. That's enough for me. Now, here's the conspiracy theory one. McGregor coming off of the roster, allegedly using the leverage of the term of the contract is no longer the same contract because I'm not eligible for pay-per-view points. Well, I mean, he is, but it's not a thing anymore, so it makes it void, which then it's not just him. It's all the current champions that my real question belongs to, but he's the lightning rod. And so between Conor and the reigning champs, like, all the champs technically have a grievance, in my opinion.
I'll answer your question directly first, and then let me get to more about Conor. Short answer, yes. All of the champs right now will lose money. Aspinall was on Ariel the other day, said he doesn't make that much off pay-per-view points because people aren't buying his pay-per-views. The McGregors, right, the $1 million pay-per-view sales, they will lose. Right now, if the contracts don't change, we'll lose money. Assumption is that the contracts will be changing somehow. About Conor, though, specifically, I'm glad this came up. Let me tell you something about Conor being removed from the roster. I've talked about this before. I've talked about how the new anti-doping works, right?
Mhm.
USADA was an independent body. When someone failed, they released it. Now, what happens is it goes to Dana's desk. If someone fails, it just goes to Dana's desk. Hey, this guy failed. So Conor made a big deal about submitting his first test, so his first sample, and 3 weeks later, he's removed from the roster. Dana just said, yeah, this guy's never fighting again. He's got so much juice in his system. We're going to give you the option, Conor. We can ban you or you can just retire.
That's way nicer than the version I was going with. I don't know. The whole mess with the current fighters, though, I just wonder how they're gonna air quote make it up to them. You brought up Aspinall on the pay-per-view thing. No, couldn't sell out by pay-per-view numbers. He couldn't sell out a McDonald's. Okay. The UFC moved heaven and earth for the guy. They had the fights in England or Manchester and put the time on North American time slot for Canadians and Americans to buy the pay-per-views because we're the ones who do. And the brother still couldn't sell out of McDonald's. So what's your thoughts on the pay-per-view points?
So here, of the current champions, not who just lost the belt, of the current champions, who do you think is a million pay-per-view by draw?
Oh, to Conor's type numbers, million, none of them. None of
nobody.
them. No, nobody. No. I don't think it's that. I just think that buys on 300,000 is still nice.
And I don't want to get into too much and talk too much about agent business nonsense stuff. Not every the champion contract is not set in stone. Not everybody's is the same pay-per-view numbers, right? So like Conor's is probably like $5 a pay-per-view. So that million is extra 5 million to him. Makes a big difference. Like Aspinall's is probably 10 cents a pay-per-view. So those 300,000 is like $3,000 extra for him, you know?
Could have been 1 cent. The guy sucks. All right. So we got that nailed out of the way. Was there any other parts of the TV deal that you thought were important, or you maybe saw some speculation about that you want to continue on before we get to the next one?
Nope.
All right, cool. I'll just say this one last time. You know, it's cool to see the UFC evolve over all these years. Once upon a time, only on pay-per-view.
Yeah.
Then through the dark ages, barely on pay-per-view. And then on TV, then to now mega TV, and now to the point of evolving past pay-per-view. Like, fucking cool, dude.
Yeah, dude, we went hard on the UFC the last episode, right? They're the best. They're the only ones sticking around. How's Bellator doing? How's the GFL doing? You know, like PFL is kicking back up. Hopefully they can get it. But they're the only ones that are evolving and changing with what is appropriate for the time, right? Like you said, pay-per-views only. Oh, and then we went to the hybrid. Now we figured out a way to stream it. Now it's all streaming. Like, there's a reason they're the best. And it's because they stay in the game and they change when they need to change.
Somebody out there make the graphic, use AI, make a Darwin evolution chain, and use the different UFC logos and the different broadcast networks that they've evolved and gone up with. Yeah, dude, solid stuff. Here's something that I did notice during this very past fight, and I don't know if it's something new. Okay, so those of you who don't watch One Championship, they do something really cool over there. They were the first ones, in my opinion, or fight knowledge, to do so. So right when a fighter finishes their fight, they like whisper, send a love note to the announcer guy, and the announcer tells them, like, right there in the post-fight interview, hey, you just won, you know, X amount of extra dollars, and it's anywhere from like 10 grand to 50 grand, which is awesome. So Dana totally stole that, right? Like, that's a thing. That's pretty cool, right?
I said exactly what you said. I go, they're stealing this from One, and Joe was messing it up. Joe, I love you, Joe. You were messing it up. You're supposed to get hype. 50, you got 50,000, but you just kept saying, Kirby, that you are going to get the bonus. And the guys both were just like, oh, cool, right? No, hype, that's $50,000. Go crazy, Joe. Get everyone excited. But I did notice that they're just gonna nonchalantly steal that from one, and I like it. I like it. I like it. But Joe Rogan, get excited about it. Get excited about that 50 grand.
I like it, just like you're saying. Put the gun in Dana's hands. Like, you're
Yeah.
the big boss. Shoot the shot. Like, hey, I'm not gonna wait, but I gotta wait till after. That was badass. Here's, I love that. I love it. Back to Joe Rogan. Much respect to you, Mr. Rogan. Much respect. I don't get excited over $5. Like, he's a 100 millionaire. Like,
No,
50
yeah.
grand, 50 grand to him is like what? Like, oh, okay, cool, kid, you got 50 grand. Like, do you
Yeah.
think that's what it is? Like, these motherfuckers so rich, like it doesn't hit the same?
This is how it felt to me. 100% it doesn't hit the same to Joe. But I feel like it wasn't planned. Dana was just like, yeah, give it to him. Tell him up there, give it to him. And then it happened once, and Dana was like, I'm going to do this now. I'm doing this now. I'm telling him in the cage. And that's why nobody was ready for it. Nobody was ready to like make it a display.
I'm for it. I'm for it. If it was a organic, let's just fly and go for it. I like it, and hopefully Joe gets on. Because you think, because I know Joe watches one, so I would have thought to him like he would have picked up on this, and he's a stand-up comedian, real smart, fast guy. I thought he would have plugged those two things together, but hey, so be it. Now we'll get into the next area of discussion of someone not plugging it together, actually taking the plug and yanking it apart and doing all kinds of silly goose stuff with it. The pride of America, Brian Battle, went over to France, kicked some ass, and told them to shove it. Best thing in a long time. Then he had his second 15 minutes of fame, because he already had his 15 minutes of fame from Tough. And he had a new surge, a new wave of fans. And then shits the bed. Just shits the bed big time for this fight. And he's kind of been underperforming, in my opinion. I know you want to get into this because you have more knowledge on this situation of how it actually works. Throwing up theories, throwing half court shots, but break down, what's real.
Yeah. So just so we cover how egregious it was, right? He's a welterweight. Fought welterweight he fought on the Ultimate Fighter on welterweight, won it 2 fights ago, missed weight at welterweight. So UFC made him move up to middleweight, 15 extra pounds, and then he missed weight by 4 pounds, middleweight. Point of this is that you guys, fans, are not as mad as you should be at people that miss weight. It is the most, forget the benefit it gives you in the fight. Forget that you signed a piece of paper with your name for X amount of dollars saying that you would do it. When you are in the UFC, when you're contracted in the UFC, you get a professional dietitian who takes, if you don't want to go to Las Vegas, you just send them your body weight, height, and all that stuff, and they write out a meal plan. Not only do they write it out, they send you all of the food. If you want to go to Vegas, you can get in the dunk tank. You can have them do your blood. You can have them do every test in America, the world, on you. And then they send you all of your food for fight camp. You don't have to do or think about anything. You just eat what they send you, and you are guaranteed. There's no guesswork. You're guaranteed to make weight if you just eat only what they send you and nothing else. And the people that can't do that, it's despicable. It's ridiculous. Everyone listening to this, imagine if you had that opportunity, not for any money, just for your own physical body goals. Oh, professional dietitian is going to make my diet and send me all my food. It shows up to me. I don't have to cook it. I just warm it up and eat it every day, and I'll be my goal weight. For someone to have that and then just spit in your face and say, no, I'm not going to do it. Mess up not just their career, but the person they're fighting's career, right? His opponent didn't get a fight. I bet you the UFC did pay them, but there's been times where they haven't. Wonderboy Thomas wouldn't fight Michel Pereira because he was 4 pounds over.
Yeah.
UFC wouldn't pay him. He makes a lot more money. He was like 250 grand that they owed him. But UFC said, nope, we're not going to pay you if you're not going to fight. So you guys, I'm telling you, you guys are not as mad as you should be at people that miss weight.
I am mad. I'm not as mad as Zac because, well, I've never had to cut weight. But so Zac knows, and he's a fighter, and you're breaking code. You're breaking code, and anybody does any kind of craft or anything, there's a code in what you do, and you just don't break that shit. It's dishonorable. And I'll say this: it just looks wildly unprofessional when you follow the footsteps of someone who everybody rags on every chance they get. The most amount of fat jokes I've ever heard about someone who's not even fat is Kelvin Gastelum. Well, Brian Battle, you are challenging for his spot. You're trying to take over I moved up a weight and still missed. This is so crazy, which then goes, brother, what are you eating? Like, what are you eating? You missed all of, and you tried to cut down. So where were you? Like, where were you in life if you cut weight and still couldn't make it even close? So I don't know. It just seems weird just talking to so many people who, like, figuratively, metaphorically, and probably literally would cut off a finger or something else to be in the UFC, and then there's this guy just like, fucking let me piss into the fan. Fuck it. Like, it's just weird.
And just in case, like, if you guys are thinking that I'm lying, right? You can look up statistically. I fought in Karate Combat a month ago, 258. I fought in the UFC 4 times, made 206 every single time, right? All you have to eat is what that comes in that stupid box. Does it taste good? No, it doesn't taste good, but that's not the point.
No, right. And like you said, you're a professional. For these X amount of weeks, this is what I got to do. It's almost disappointing. It's more than disappointing. Not asking to spill names, but when people do stuff like this that kind of breaks code, brings shame, or this or that, does that ever have an impact on that fighter's, say, ability to go somewhere else and train? Or, like, do people go, I don't want to associate with you? Does that ever kind of happen?
So it doesn't keep you out of the gym, but there's coaches that won't work with you. We have one of my good friends, and I won't say his name, but he knows who I'm talking about. He's a serial weight misser, and he's missed weight in not the UFC, but the biggest organizations in the world, right? Important fights where it made a huge difference in his career and his life. And there's coaches that won't work with him. Great coaches who he would like to work with that are like, dude, you can't even show us that this is important to you. We're not going to give you our time. And that's just what it is. No partners are ever going to say, oh, we won't train with you because you miss weight. But it makes your team look like losers. It makes your whole squad look like losers if you can't even make weight.
I was going to say that's interesting that you mentioned the coach, because, right, his support team kind of eats that shame just as well. Like, it almost makes the coach look, and I'm not saying this, but it makes the coach look incompetent. Like, well, you didn't put him on the fucking scale? Like, you didn't know where he was at, coach? Like, come on, right? Like, just from the outside, my 2 cents for nothing. That's what it makes it seem like. Is there any other things that you wanted to touch on this, or maybe any other region of the fight game?
I just want to say, I'll stop beating this stupid weight cutting drum, but that is the hardest part, man. That's harder than the fight. I like fighting. Fighting is fun. Cutting weight is the hardest part of the fight. And guys that miss weight and still get to fight have some stupid, like, 80% win rate because they didn't do the hard part and are fighting someone that did. And so I wish, if it were up to me, if you don't make weight, you instantly lose. Loss goes on your record, period. And I promise you, you would never see a weight miss again. You would never see it again if that's what it was.
Zach, I like where you're going with this. I want to take that energy and just spin it into something that kind of already exists. The Japanese already have it figured out with the red card system. You come in overweight, you're red carded. That means you have to win the fight by finish, or you're not going to win by decision. You're already decimated by points. Like, you cannot. So you basically are at an L. You have to literally earn your ass out of it, and so on to that. That is right on, dude. Good pickup right there. That I hope with the bonuses getting raised, and mixing these two topics together now. I'm hoping with the bonuses being raised that men and women stop, and I don't know if it's a fucking game or not, but I think it's funny that some people that I've talked to when they're in the regional scene be making weight, no problem. And then they get to the UFC and this, we talked about this, the strategic, hey, I'm getting paid 15 and 15. I got to cut 30% of this 15. If I win the other 15, who gives a shit about the $3.5 grand I lose, right? That's real math that's happening out there, folks, whether you want to believe it or not. Comment if you do or not. But I'm hoping these bonuses put that carrot in front of the people who might think that way and go, well, shit, I don't want to be ineligible for 100K, 150K bonus or whatever it may be. Do you have any thoughts about that? Do you think that could be a positive thing?
Yeah, absolutely could. More money, right, is just going to make it everything better. And I don't think he's missed in a while. Josh Emmett has missed out on like 2 or 3 bonuses from missing weight and blowing the dude's head off, like absolutely knocking people out cold. And he was not eligible for the bonus because he missed weight. So just in general, having more of a reason to make weight, like positive reinforcement, is a better thing. Giving them more of a reason to make weight, in theory, is probably better than the harsh punishment that I was suggesting.
I think all of it. I think bring all of it. I know we probably won't adopt the red card soon, but yeah, no, levy harsh punishment and then increase the bonus, increase the upside, and make the disparity between the two so vast that strategic missing becomes a thing of the past. All right. Well, we're done with those portions of the podcast. Thank you guys for spending your time with us. And once again, share, comment, follow at Fully Hydrated Podcast on X and Instagram. Thank you for your guys' support. And it's been a good time. We'll see you next time. But in the meantime, stay fully hydrated. All right.